There has never been a better time to open your own brokerage. The resources available, the associations that have been created, and the peer learning were not formed and didn't even start happening until 2017. The technology is amazing and it just keeps getting better. Brokers currently originate 1 in every 5 loans in the US, and I truly believe that that number is going to continue to go up. You can operate as a one-person brokerage, you can operate as a team leader, which is how I started. And then you can also build a pretty big brokerage. The choice is yours and each model works. You just have to set it up the right way. This video is the second video in our How to Get Your Mortgage Broker License series. And like we started the first video, I wanted to first quickly list out the 3 main licenses you need to be aware of when becoming a mortgage broker owner or loan originator. So the 3 types of licenses that you need to address are license number 1, your individual NMLS, which is the MU2 form. Every company must have 1 person within their brokerage that must take the required pre-licensing, the 20-hour course, and pass that NMLS exam in order to get an NMLS number and be able to originate mortgages for consumers. Then license number 2 is the company, or the MU1. And that's the company NMLS number. Your company will be assigned. This is the license that you are trying to obtain if you're watching this video and you want to open your own mortgage business. And we are discussing primarily the things that you will need to do and get for your company license to be approved in this video. And then the final 3rd license is the branch NMLS. And now some states require that at every single location, including the original ones, whereas other states only require the branch approval and the branch license once you go and do your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and on locations. So this can get really confusing at times, especially if the owner of your brokerage is not planning on getting licensed, but you still need the company to get licensed. I stated it in the other video, but I highly recommend that every owner of a mortgage brokerage obtain an NMLS license in order to protect you, the company, and your employees, even if you're not going to originate personally. If you decide to employ a loan officer and use their NMLS to license the company, be aware that if they leave, you will no longer be able to take loan applications until another licensed individual is assigned to the business in the NMLS system. So in this video, we're going to be digging into the documents and information you need to submit and apply for that company license. This is the 2nd video in our 3-part video series that was made to help anyone interested in filing and applying for their licenses in NMLS. So by now, you should have your individual license instructions and you should have a login to the NMLS, your individual login. Just like you had to log in to get a checklist of what was needed for that individual license, you need to go and do the same thing and retrieve a list of items submitted for your company license. The difference that you will see is in the types of items that will be needed for the company license. This is why the first thing that I'm going to do is walk you through the most common requirements that need to be submitted when applying for a company license. Because the list is a bit extensive, we're going to explain to you a little later in the video here what these items are, but if you want to see them, you're going to need to check out our mini course in Broker Fast Track, where we show you every single one of these documents, and you actually get a copy of these documents in the workbook with the course. Here's the overview of the most common requirements and an idea of where to create them, obtain them. So everyone needs that background check. Every mortgage loan originator is required to do this. Everyone needs to do their fingerprints, and you need to do that after you pass your exam. Then you're going to need to start digging in and creating some things. So that's where your personal financial statements come in. That's where you put in, your income, your debt, all the things that you have personally. A lot of states will ask you to put together a business plan and a pro forma. Pro forma is where you're showing them this is the amount of business I'm projecting I'm going to do and how much money I'm going to make. They want to know and have a resume of experience for whoever the owners of the business are. You're going to have to submit that MU1 form for the company if you just got your individual or you're trying to get your individual license at the same time. The MU2 form will need to be filled out. And if you're in a state that requires a branch license as well for your first office, the MU3 form. You're gonna need to get a certificate of good standing for your business entity. You're gonna need to put together an organizational chart, and you're going to need to get what's called a bond. And there is now an option right in the NMLS. There's an electronic surety bond, letters of explanation that need to go with them, but there are resources right in the NMLS website. Every single state, when you submit the things that I just listed, you're gonna have to send in your formation documents for your new business. So formation documents are articles of incorporation, an operating agreement. If you have a partnership, you're gonna have a partnership agreement. You can create your business entity by going to an attorney who can help do this for you, or you can do it yourself by going to the state website, or there are companies, I'll put a link in the description. One that I've used personally is called My Corporation. So I'll put that in there so that that's one way you can save money. There are even companies that will file and do all these licensing steps for you. You still though have to create your own financial statements and pro formas, but they will submit them in the NMLS website. Now, one additional thing that I didn't say when I was discussing that you need to get a bond, in case you don't know what a bond is, everybody has to get one. The state will determine the amount that you need to get for a bond. And a bond is kind of like when you get insurance. It's an insurance policy that the business is required to have, and it's to protect the customer. So you will need to get a bond like an insurance policy, and there are companies that provide this. You're going to be submitting all of this. You have to get that criminal background check when you submit for your company license. If you are also submitting for your individual license approval, you'll submit all of those items with the company information. You're going to need to get that criminal background check. You have to put in your pre-licensing 20-hour and your test results in there. And then you will also have to give things such as your tax returns or tax certifications. If you have a business, if the business that you're going to use, maybe it's already established, but you want to call it something else, you'll need to do what's called a DBA, which is a doing business as. It's a one sheet, maybe two, and it says what your business will be doing, the name you'll be using. Your business plan, we already mentioned, but the org chart, you'll have to decide, are you the manager or who is in management? What are their roles? You need to show your citizenship by, or an alien status. Your resume will disclose, because some states, they require us to open up your own brokerage. That is when a requirement for how long you've been in the industry. There are questions they're going to ask you that you'll need to go through and answer them. I have seen before in certain states a books and records location request. So if you're not familiar with that, that's when you're going to need to look up and research. A lot of times, and I recommend doing a letter of explanation if you have anything on your credit or if you have a criminal history of any sort, because there are things that they allow and don't allow. The tip that I would say, if you are limited on time or you're nervous about something, is I would be willing to pay for assistance in submitting these items and getting approved. There are a couple, not many, but there are a couple companies who do help with licensing for a charge. You can do any of these steps on your own if you're looking to keep your costs lower, or you can pay one of the companies that will complete it for you. It will go smoother and faster. Even watching this video, I would say if you really are on a time crunch, make sure in the description you click and schedule time to discuss joining our licensing course. We also made a checklist for any of you who are ready to take this big step and open your own brokerage. Now you can download a copy of the checklist by clicking on the link in the description below. And once you've compiled everything that's on your state's checklist, you now have to wait, which is really hard, and every state is different. The last question that we know many of you have is, how much does all of this cost to apply for a company license? And the cost of licensing really does vary by state, just like the items that are requested. We have applied at states that have 3-4 pages of items, and some states have 1 page. So we did provide, we're also gonna put a link, lots of links here in the description in this video, but you can click on the link and it'll bring you to a map where you can click on the state that you're interested in, and you can pull up each state's checklist. The licensing cost breakdown for most of the states You're going to have things, your surety bond, like I discussed, is probably going to be in the $500 range. Registered agent fee is going to be in the $100 range. I know, like in our state, for example, it's $1,100 to apply for your company license. That's the fee. And then the fingerprints. So in Pennsylvania, it's about $1,700. Remember, this does not include the cost of your 20 hours that you have to take, and for taking the exam for your individual license alongside the company. That's just the straight costs of applying for a company license. So make sure you finish the series by watching video number 3 about the branch licensing and how each state can be a little bit different. We are going to break that down a little bit further in that 3rd video by comparing 2 states next to each other so you can see some of these differences.